Today on Viewpoint, we're going to be talking about the impact of subsidy removal on petrol since its implementation on citizens. I am Caroline Okonji.
I want to thank you for asking my opinion. I must tell you, for me, subsidy has been a story over the years. It's like the story of a tortoise that appears in every story. You know, every story, local story, folktale, you hear tortoise. That's what subsidy has become in the last couple of years. Talk about 3 or 4 decades now. But I think it's high time we let that story go away. It should leave our system so that we can at least breathe down. Now, the second is that if it is true, I use the word if it is true, that people have been celebrating subsidy and getting money when they do not do the work, for me it is ridiculous for them to continue. The third is that I also understood what I heard, that people do round tripping. They will buy one oil and want to take it 2 times in the waters and collect subsidy for whatever times they are round tripping. For me, that was criminal and satanic. So for whatever subsidy it means in this oil industry was satanic. It did not impact on the people of Nigeria as it ought to be impacted upon. Something supposed to bring social impactation and make people have some relaxed mood. I'm not sure we've ever had any relaxed mood in Nigeria. We've never had it. Subsidy has been paying all along. We still have the kind of entrenched economic drama, if you like, in our country. So for me, subsidy should go. Let's for once have a breathing space. The only thing I have about this government is that they would have done strategic planning before the subsidy go. That's the only thing I heard about it. But for me, the courage to let subsidy go, for me, is good. And I am thinking that yes, the planning would have been done before subsidy removal. It's also true that they would have also do the palliative. People start seeing the impact before you now start removing the subsidy. That would have been a fundamental thing to do. However, that's not historical. But what I think is primary and fundamental now for us to do is let us address the issues arising therefrom. It's not about lamentation. It's not about complaining or screaming. It's about let us address the issue as they arise now. How do we solve them? Now, there must be a consensus. In every economic strategy, there must be consensus because there are what we call actors and stakeholders. They must sit down together and have a consensus. How do we draw this program? If that was done at the beginning, we won't have this kind of crisis of labor saying no and government saying and all of that. The second is that government will also now learn how to bring up trust, because it is lack of trust and suspicion that makes labor people to say no, we're not going to accept it. If there's a trust all along, they won't say so. They will simply say, okay, let us see how we go. Let us come together, and because you know that the government, when they tell you something, they will do it. But over the years, in the last couple of years, up to 40 years, government will say one thing, and in the morning of the following day, something has been said, and people are beginning to suspect that what is going on. And so, for me, government should invest more on trust.
Subsidy remover. It has been a very strong slogan from the inception of almost all the political parties during campaign. And of course, the moment this administration came aboard, it became the national item. I would not say so far so good. Rather, I would say so far so bad. Because in the first instance, there was nothing in place that would cushion the effects or probably the rippling effects of removal of fuel subsidy on the masses. Take for example, the transportation industry was the first to be affected. And you and I know that once that is done, every other aspect of our life will be affected, even up to house rent. Now, in a situation where someone fuel his car, maybe full tank with 15,000 before now, we'll be looking at almost 30 to 35, 40,000. And you know what that will tell on his income. And as such, it goes down to feeding, it goes down to clothing, it goes down to the general well-being of the individual. And I will say, as from the time the president was sworn in and that declaration was made, I tell you the truth, it has been getting harder by the day upon the masses. I personally, I will have to recount my own experience. Moving from my house, probably I don't want to use my vehicle, public transport, would take, for a family of 4 or 5, would take like 3,000 down to and fro. But now we are looking at 6,000 and above. And you know what that will mean. Not to talk of the high cost of living presently. Almost every landlord is now going to increase their house rent. And that goes to those persons who are also in business, who have stores. Those who are operating a kind of a miniature stores, business. Those are the ones that will be hit worst. And as such, things are moving from bad to worse. We are not calling for a revolution yet, but I think the reasons politicians, especially the legislators, we are elected, it to represent the interest of the people. And if they are not up to the needful, to do the needful, then the citizenry have no choice than to protest. But the question is, can this protest actually bring our desired result? I will not actually say no, because going by the body language of the present president, so far so good on his part. If there are some hues and cry over some issue, it seems to mellow down. For example, when the issue of giving out some money, I think was about 80,000 to families, and I think some person said no, that will go back to the pockets of political allies. And as such, I think that thing died a natural death. So far, if we say protest, fine, but it still boils down to the executive, and which the president symbolize or represents. Can they listen to the protest of the masses? I would personally say, well, by and large, he may and he may not.
Okay, well, the impact of the recent subsidy removal, to say the least, is indescribable. The effect it has had on the generality of the people, the masses, it has kind of brought about untold hardship, and as a result, we are now experiencing, so to say, inescapable poverty. So, and it also amounts to a failure on the part of the government, because any government that cannot meet the basic needs of the people, which includes the welfare of the people, I mean, if you have to deplete the pocket or economic power of the masses in order for you to be able to function as a government, I think it amounts to failure. So, in my view, the government has really failed. You cannot tax, I mean, the basic thing they need, nobody can afford it anymore. A situation where you are not able to afford the essential basic food items, and the little money you have in your pocket cannot even take you anywhere. So I think the idea of protesting too, in a way, it could be encouraged in a way, because that's the only way to bring the plight of the common masses to the knowledge of the government. Because most times governance seem to be insensitive to whatever suffering the masses are going through. So you need to protest, you need to find other means of bringing to their notice the suffering they are going through. But the way out of this is not the non-existent palliative their government is trying to borrow to begin to distribute to households. I think there are ways we would have gone about it that the masses will not feel. If you remove subsidy from petroleum products, there are other avenues you can channel those sources by way of palliative. Like for instance, if you ensure that your energy sector is up and doing, it's functioning properly, that will reduce the huge chunk of money expended on fueling your generator at home and in your office, and you only be left with the option of driving your car. If you decide you can trek, if you decide you can use your bicycle, you can decide you can take public transport, but at least since we all know the power is irregular, so if they can make power regular here where we have lights, at least 15 hours a day, the money would have expended in purchasing fuel would be saved for doing other things. Then the second thing I think that the government should channel the palliative into, having said they've saved over ₦1 trillion, put it into agriculture, subsidize foodstuff, essential basic food items. If you can buy rice, garri, beans, yam at a very cheap rate, rather than giving other money for governors to share. So if you subsidize agricultural produce or products, if you may, if you subsidize it and we have cheap food, you buy rice cheap, you buy garri cheap, so the only thing you have to contend now with is fueling your vehicle, and there won't be protest, there won't be the masses will now begin to feel the impact of the palliative, not distributing 8,000 to households or any form of money you want to share that will not go anywhere. So if we have been able to garner or save huge amount of money, channel it into the energy sector, channel it into the agricultural sector, and you see nobody will complain.
Subsidy or no subsidy, I don't believe of subsidy. The government has no people at heart. You beg people to vote you. After voting you, the first slap to give to a whole country is say no subsidy. And the inflation have to be placed on individual, as we are all seeing it today, both in the market, in the setting, in the transportation, in everywhere. So they don't bug. It doesn't bug them because they know how much they are collecting at the end of the month on the head of the citizenry. So it's only God who will intervene us, who will intervene the notes and crowning of the day. So to me, well, it's God that will judge you and I, and will protect you and I from all evil on the land. So forget about subsidy. They know what they are doing. Do they remove their change? Say from now, let us have a flat payment. That is, i.e. from level 1 to 20, and stop there. You go and carry 29 million. You go and carry million and give human being 8,000 naira. What an insult! What a big slap to the populace. Those who took their money, they carry the cost. And for me, I'm a senior citizen. I'm above 70 now, or running to 74. So how can you tell? Is it so they do it in America, in Europe, in other Western countries? They run to go and buy Panadol. No hospital, no good things in the land. Rather than you see people trekking now, they are all suffering, smiling and suffering. So it's wise we should speak out.
They use removing subsidy to cheat we citizens. So as now, the country are facing very difficult in a way that we can never know how to put it, because the country today are the worstest country that are hungry in the whole nation is Nigeria. Why? Because our leaders, they know what to do, but they don't want to do it. They are traveling different countries. They see what their countries are doing. They see what their countries are benefiting. But instead of that, to do so, they want to put Nigeria into a pit. Even as I'm now coming from Adoawa, I know what I paid. Even from Knife, I know what I paid. But it's not so. It's not supposed to be so. We are the one generating the fuel. We have mineral resources. But instead of us to republish the refinery, we now carry our crude oil to other country and refine and buy from there. That is why the country is suffering today. So I can say that it is only God that sustaining us up to date because of His grace.
before now, to some extent, this is they were enjoying the products, so to say. But as at now, it's like we are suffering from it. I don't know if you get me. So I think it will be better that they should do a rethink of what they've done. You understand? Because the masses are suffering, the people are suffering. There are a lot of breakdown in emotions in this country, and they are not smelling anymore. So they have to do a rethink of what they've planned. Sure, you get. But if they feel it's okay for them, I don't know what they are doing up there. But if they feel it's okay for them, it's not okay for us. Yes, we are suffering. We have to speak out. We have to air our views so that they will know that we are feeling the griefs. You understand? So anyhow, I think there should be protest, but it must be peaceful. You understand? So that we can hear our view, maybe relate with them. Anyhow.
While some citizens are actually clamoring for the government to put modalities and measures in place to cushion the effect that the impact of the subsidy removal is already having on citizens, some are also saying that they are going to resolve to protest. But the thing is, the government should also do the needful and what is expected of them by the citizens, just to make sure that the effect of the subsidy removal is not felt. I am Caroline Okonji on ITV.